So the Big Ten is planning on making its return on October 23rd, 24th for the football season. The Big Ten had another meeting with the committee and school presidents to agree to a 9 game regular season, which includes a Champions Week. The influence of the decision might have came from the outlook of Week 1 of the NFL and Power 5 football, and they found a partner where they can conduct medical daily testing for COVID-19. The season is scheduled to end on December 19th. Something new, as I mentioned, will be the Big Ten Champions Week. This means that the West and East champions will still play each other as normal for the Big Ten title. That also means there'll be additional matchups from the other 12 teams based on division finish. I think this is a good way to solidify the overall standings across the entire conference. Whoever wins the Big Ten will most likely secure that fourth playoff spot for the college football playoffs. Right now, I have Clemson, Oklahoma, and Alabama securing the first 3 spots. But who knows? Maybe Georgia, Florida, or Texas will take Alabama's spot. Alabama is the one I'm least confident in making the playoffs. Maybe Mac Jones, the starting quarterback, won't be that guy, and Alabama misses the mark. I mean, there are less games now, so every game counts. So if you have one loss, you may not make the cut. I'm going to go over the kind of the overall schedule of some of these teams, starting with Ohio State, just because they are kind of under the spotlight the most. They're most likely going to win the Big Ten and potentially be undefeated. The only challenge I see is the game at Penn State. RIP to whiteout tradition. The whiteout game at Penn State was one of my favorite college football traditions. It's just so cool to see the entire stands full of students or fans just wearing only white shirts or white whatever. I recall there was a night game at Penn State where Michigan had the ball, and before the snap, the fans were so loud, quarterback Shea Patterson and head coach Jim Harbaugh couldn't even communicate the play, that they had to call a timeout. It was that bad. Back to Ohio State, their starting quarterback, Justin Fields, will most likely be a Heisman contender. Speculation has shown that he may not be able to make NFL-type throws, or his big stats are inflated due to a spread offense scheme that Ryan Day conducts at Ohio State. But remember, Fields threw for 51 TDs and only 3 interceptions, and those interceptions mostly came from the Clemson game, which everyone knows is a very good defensive team. And you have to know that he's a dual threat QB too, and NFL teams love those kind of guys now. I think he's coming into the season with a big chip on his shoulder, and I think he can make those throws. Looking at the end of the season, he definitely looked more polished compared to the beginning of the season. He was showing some NFL throws, showing his comfortability in the pocket against lineman pressure, and little things such as just falling through with his throw and keeping his eyes downfield is what NFL scouts look for. And I think he's definitely going to be a lot better in terms of mechanics this year versus last year. Going to the Penn State schedule, I predict they're going to be a 7-1 team. The Ohio State game will probably be their one loss, but there's tough games too. They're going to play Michigan and Iowa. And head coach James Franklin, he's a great coach. I think he's turned around that program, and he is a great coach to work with. Then going on to the Iowa Hawkeyes. I said earlier last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, that they'd go 4-4. And I'm sure people, especially Hawkeye fans, did not look at that kindly. I just don't really know what to expect. I know they're real good. They're always good at the tight end position, O-line, and the defensive pieces in terms of NFL talent. But I don't know what they have for quarterback, because they don't have a quarterback that has played a game or started a game at least. So going with the losses, I'm going to predict an upset loss to Northwestern at home. Within the last 4 years, Iowa's only beat them once, and 2 of those losses were at home. Then the next loss will be at Minnesota. PJ Fleck is the future of Minnesota football. Everybody loves him. He's a great head coach, and I kind of said he was overhyped, but you know, he's a good coach, and he has great pieces to work with. Example, his returning QB, Tanner Morgan, he was 4th in efficiency among quarterbacks. So I think he'll do good again this year. The next loss will be Penn State, just because Penn State is the second best team in the Big Ten East, and they might be the second or third best team in the overall conference. And looking at the last 6 meetings, they've lost every single one of them. My favorite one was the 2017 meeting where Saquon Barkley and company took them out at home on the final drive, which was so sweet. And I'm going to predict the last loss will be their last game of the year against Wisconsin. Historically, Wisconsin has a great rush defense, and Iowa does not depend on the pass game too often. Because like I said, I'm not sure what to expect from this quarterback. I don't think it's going to be any better than Nate Stanley, who wasn't even that great to begin with. Just looking historically, Iowa is 1-7 in the last 8 meetings against Wisconsin. They've already taken 4 straight L's, and it's going to be the 5th straight L this year on Wisconsin. And speaking of Wisconsin, I want to go over their schedule prediction. I'm going to say it's going to be 7-1. Just because they have maybe the easiest Big Ten schedule. So there's a chance they could sweep the entire schedule, but I don't think it's going to happen because they're known to lose to unknown teams or get upsetted by these teams. And last year was Illinois. And I think this year it's going to be Purdue or Indiana. Purdue because Rondale Moore just announced that he just opted back into the college season. And he didn't play against them last year, and he's a pretty good wide receiver. I think he's projected to be one of the top wide receivers in the draft this year. And I'm going to say Indiana because they have progressed a lot last year. They went to their first bowl game in a while, and I don't see them progressing any less this year. I think it'll be another up year for them. My question is, who's going to be that running back? Wisconsin is known to be a running back program. I mean, there's some great NFL running backs in the league right now or have been in the league. Just to name a few, Ron Dane was there, Monte Ball, Melvin Gordon, James White, and Jonathan Taylor this year. And they're all pretty respectable running backs. Wisconsin just recruited 4-star running back Jalen Berger. And like I said, he's probably in good hands with his staff. Jonathan Taylor was a 3-star running back, and he turned out to be one of the greatest running backs in pretty much college history. I don't know any running back that's at that caliber. Maybe Saquon Barkley, maybe Adrian Peterson, but Jonathan Taylor had the best running back's career as a 3-year running back, and that's nothing to be argued with. I'm going to talk about the Nebraska schedule. So I think they have the hardest schedule in the Big Ten. Head coach Scott Frost was like, Big Ten or not, we're going to play. We don't care if there's going to be a season. We'll find a way. The Big Ten straight up said, bet. Look at their schedule. They have an opener at Ohio State. They play Wisconsin, Penn State, Minnesota, and Iowa. 5 out of the 8 games are against the top 6 teams within the entire conference. I mean, I can say that 2 of these teams could be top 10 programs this year in overall college football. Worst case scenario, I think they'll go 2-6. Best case, I'm going to say 3-5. And if they get that 3-5, I think they might improve their standings compared to last year. Before championship week, which would be after week 8, I predict the West standings will be Wisconsin to Minnesota, Iowa, Purdue, Nebraska, which will be solely decided on the matchup between Purdue for those spots. And then it's going to be Illinois and Northwestern. And then coming from the East, it will be Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Indiana, Michigan State, which will be decided by the Indiana game, and then Maryland and Rutgers. I think Maryland has a good shot of edging out the Rutgers again because they just recently acquired Tua Tagovailoa's younger brother, Taulia. So if he has any talent like his brother, I'm sure he'd be a great asset for Maryland. My concern with this whole return to the Big Ten is the lack of rest. There are no bye weeks, and I think they did this so the Big Ten can have a chance of playing around the college football playoffs, which I understand. It's giving them a shot to make the playoffs, but I just assume that they probably won't be as well rested when it comes to playoff time, and all the other teams on the Big Ten, they're probably going to look sluggish as the weeks progress are worse. There might be some injuries, so I'm not sure how confident I am that they're going to be great. They're going to be really healthy at the end of the season. And my question is, what's the limit of games to be eligible for the college playoffs? Like, there's already been games that have been postponed and canceled due to COVID cases at universities. What happens if Ohio State goes undefeated, but they only played 6 or 7 games? Are they eligible for the playoffs? I don't know. So that's kind of my outlook, my predictions for the Big Ten return. I'm excited. I love the Big Ten. It's a huge thing in the Midwest because most of these teams are within the Midwest. I mean, I'm real harsh on Iowa fans. I mean, I think they're like cockroaches. You just can't get rid of them. But I admire their loyalty to the Hawkeyes. I mean, I grew up around them, and that's big. That's big in Iowa. Hawkeye football. Just to me, Iowa State football is big. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen because it's just better when everybody's playing, especially in the Big Ten. So let's find out, and I'm ready to see them play.